What's up, YouTube? This is ByStudentXF89, guys. Today I'm coming to you with my latest deck profile video for August 2021. And today, guys, we're looking at my updated Trickstar deck. Now, if you've seen my channel before, you know very well that I'm a very big fan of the burnt variant of this deck. And I can tell you right now, it's helped me steal a few wins in the past. Despite putting multiple Lycris on the board and forcing your opponent to basically draw them repeatedly during the course of their turn can just hurt and chew through a lot of their life points. And if that isn't bad enough, the back row could actually, in fact, help you deck your opponent out as a secondary win condition, which is even crazier. However, now that we have Trickstar Festival added into the deck, it allows us to access the Trickstar Link monsters a lot easier, and that adds in another layer of effect damage we can hit our opponents with. Not only that, but I actually have a tech card in this deck that can actually capitalize on the fact of you forcing your opponent to draw, and you'll be able to see their entire deck as they draw through their cards. So without further ado, we're jumping right into this deck. As always, we start with the monsters first, starting off with 3 copies of Trickstar Candina. Now, Candina here is the Stratos of the archetype, allowing us to search our deck for any Trickstar card on its summon, which is Monster Spell and Trap, which is huge. Not only that, but we can actually also leave her on the field, and anytime your opponent activates a spell or trap, they're going to be hit with 200 points of effect damage, and that is just a great way. Candina definitely can help you get your resources on the field, and she's definitely a 3-of in this deck. However, in my opinion, the 3 copies of Trickstar Lycris, in my opinion, is actually the real linchpin for this deck, because with the way the deck is built, you're going to be dealing your opponent a ton of damage with her effect. Alright, now she has 2 effects. She has a quick effect, which you can activate. Basically, target one face-up Trickstar monster you have on the field. Reveal this card from your hand. You can special summon her to the field and bounce that Trickstar back to your hand. And that's great. You can even utilize 2 Lycris effects and target just one Trickstar Candina on the field. Get both Lycris on the field and bounce back the single Candina, and it still works. Furthermore, every time your opponent adds a card from their deck to your hand, whether it be by drawing or by searching, they're losing 200 points. They're taking 200 points of damage for every card, and I can tell you right now, that's just huge, and it's really the central focus of this whole deck, so that's why I consider her the linchpin. Next up, we have 1 copy of Trickstar Lilybell. Lilybell is pretty awesome. If she's ever added from your deck to your hand through searching, you can immediately special summon her to the field. She has the ability to attack your opponent directly, and whenever she inflicts battle damage, she can allow you to grab a Trickstar monster in your river and add it back to your hand. She's a great way to actually recycle any destroyed Lycris back into your hand, and you can use Lycris quick effect to actually bounce Lilybell back to your hand to get Lycris back out. So, very awesome card. You only really need 1 of her. And next up, and last of the Trickstar monsters, is Trickstar Korobane. Korobane is basically the hand trap of the Trickstar archetype. What does she do is that whenever one of your Trickstar monsters attacks, you can discard this card from your hand, and then that Trickstar monster that's battling, its attack is doubled. Very awesome. A lot of the Trickstar monsters, especially the ones from the extra deck, they actually have pretty high attacks. You can get over 3k attack pretty easily. And that's not bad. Not only that, but if you control nothing but Trickstar monsters on the field, you can easily special summon her from your hand, allowing you to get additional body on the board, so you can link climb as well. So that's also a very cool thing to have, and another option for the deck to actually access his extra deck. Next up, I do want 1 copy of Honest. Honest just is a natural fit for any Light Attribute deck. Anytime a Light Attribute monster you control battles, discard this card from your hand as a quick effect, and then that Light Attribute monster you control that battles gains the attack points of the monster it's battling on your opponent's side of the field, which is just huge. Being able to swing over your opponent's monster with their own attack is just nasty. And then, last but not least, I'm running 2 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. I like running Ghost Mourner in this deck over things like Veiler or Impermanence, not because of the effect negation, more because that if the monsters whose effect you negate it leaves the field, your opponent's getting hit with effect damage equal to that monster's original attack. And I can tell you right now, any effect that can actually touch your opponent's life points, definitely worth it. Alright, so that's it for the monsters. We're going on to the spells. Next up we have 2 copies of Chain Summoning. Chain Summoning can only be activated in a chain of chain length 3 or higher, but that's pretty easy to get to. So what you do is you're going to summon out your Candina first, activate his effect, and then chain in-hand Likers to Candina's effect. That'll be chain link 2. Candina's effect will be chain link 1. Then you can drop chain summoning as chain link 3. And when you do that, chain summoning can actually allow you to normal summon up to 3 times per turn. Typically, if you already summon Trickstar Candina, that's your first normal summon, and you get 2 more summons after that. But it's not that bad, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be bouncing Candina back to your hand via Likers' effect, and normal summoning it again, which will allow you to basically get more resources into your hand. Very awesome card, and it just allows you to build resources and get your field set. Next up, we have the tech card I mentioned before in the intro. We have 3 copies of Contract with Dondaza. Now, a lot of people don't really know what this card will do. This card was actually initially released in the Duel Saga set so many years ago. I guess people overlooked it. So what happens is that when you activate this card, both players get hit with 1,000 points of effect damage. So automatically you get the burn element, which helps this deck's initial win con out. But next up, we also have, if both players get hit with effect damage, they also get to draw a card. Alright, so automatically forcing your opponent to draw a card with multiple Likers on the field, that's even more effect damage right there. But here's the real kicker. When this card's face up in the field, any card that's drawn or searched has to remain revealed. So automatically, when you start utilizing this card in conjunction with the back row this deck has, you're going to be able to see pretty much almost all of your opponent's deck as you force them to mill through it. And that right there is the real winning effect. Getting that information you need can help you better plan for any future games in your match. Furthermore, if a card that is revealed is a spell card, you cannot normal summon or set for the turn, which can slow your opponent down, especially if they are really reliant on that single normal summon. So just an overall great continuous spell, and it just does so much to add to this deck. Next up, to help with the burn element of the deck, we have 2 copies of Dark Room Nightmare. So every single time your opponent receives effect damage, this card basically counts the number of times your opponent's life points are hit with that effect damage. Once all the effect damage from the initial effects have been counted up, you can times that number of activations times 300, and that's the amount of damage Dark Room Nightmare will inflict on your opponent. So if you're able to force your opponent to basically draw twice during their turn, and you have 2 Candinas and a life stage, you get 1 activation for each Likers, and then 2 activations off of light stage, and that will be 4 activations, which will add an additional 1,200 life points. Very cool. Next up, we have 1 copy of Monster Reborn, just a great card to bring back your monsters from your graveyard, so you can keep the burn pressure on your opponent. And not only that, but you also have 2 copies of Prohibition. Prohibition is just a nasty card in this deck. Since you're going to be able to read your opponent's hand and deck, this card becomes even more insane later on in later duels in a match. But on the offset, just having these cards on game 1 is still actually pretty decent, because typically you're going to want to be calling either Ash Blossom or Nibiru to basically stop those hand traps from coming down and hurting your field. So this is basically a great way to protect your field. Next up, we got 3 copies of the new Trickstar spell on the block, 3 copies of Trickstar Festival. Activate this card, you special summon 2 Trickstar tokens, which are Fairy level 1 light attribute monsters. Very awesome. Those monsters allow you to access the Link 2 monsters that the Trickstars have that basically inflict more damage on them, on your opponent. Furthermore, this card is in the graveyard and your opponent is going to destroy one of your Trickstar monsters, especially some of them in the extra deck, either by card effect or through battle. You can banish this card instead and protect your monsters. Gives me the whole Return of the Dragon Lord feel, but you know what? It works, and protecting those extra deck monsters can come in handy. Alright, and then of course we have one copy of Light Stage, and of course one copy of Terraforming. Some very awesome cards. Light Stage, on activation, allows you to search your deck for a Trickstar monster to add to your hand. You can also target one set card on your opponent's field. They can activate it, and then during the end phase, they have to activate it or send it to the graveyard, which is actually a pretty cool way of actually clearing off the field. Furthermore, anytime one of your Trickstar monsters inflicts effect damage on your opponent's life points or inflicts damage through battle, this card will kick in an extra 200 damage onto your opponent, which is actually pretty awesome. That's it for the spells. On to the traps. And we are running 3 copies of Disturbance Strategy. What does this card do? It basically forces your opponent to take their hand, shuffle it into the deck, and draw the same number of cards again. And this card with multiple Likers in the field can basically chew through a lot of your opponent's life points. And with Contract of Don on the field, you're seeing their entire hand, so you know what they're going to be playing. 3 copies of Prison Card forces your opponent to discard their entire hand and then draw 5 cards as a fresh hand. And then next up we have 3 copies of Trickstar Reincarnation. Forces your opponent to banish their hand and then draw the same number of cards. So this forcing your opponent to draw a ton of cards with multiple Likers in the field does a ton of damage, and you'll be sawing through your opponent's life points pretty easily. Furthermore, Trickstar Reincarnation has the engraved effect where you can banish it and resurrect one of your fallen Trickstar monsters onto the field, which is actually pretty awesome. Last but not least, we are running 3 copies of Trap Trick in this deck. Trap Trick does a little bit better job than Lilith, Lady of Lament, because it is a little bit more vulnerable to monster effectifications that happen within the graveyard. Trap Trick isn't. So, and with running playsets of all 3 trap cards, it's pretty easy to actually just activate this, banish 1 copy, and then get the additional card on the field that you can activate during the same turn. So it comes in very handy. That's it for the main deck. 40 cards. On to the extra deck, and we're going to start off with 2 copies of Trickstar Holly Angel. Holly Angel, anytime you summon a monster to the zone she points to, she's hitting your opponent with 200 points of effect damage. Very awesome. Be careful where you place your Candina in your zones, because you kind of want to turn around and avoid placing him into the zones that that Holly Angel is going to be pointed to, so you can actually summon your Lycoris to both zones and get the maximum amount of effect. Furthermore, anytime your Trickstar monsters or cards are going to be inflicting effect damage on your opponent, she buffs herself by the amount of damage you cause. So, very awesome of Holly Angel. We are running 2 copies of Trickstar Crimson Heart. Crimson Heart, very interesting card. Just like Holly Angel, anytime you summon a monster to the zone she points to, you're actually, instead of your opponent losing life points, you're actually going to be gaining life points, which is actually pretty cool. It can help widen that gap between your life points and your opponent's, and that'll help fuel an additional bonus effect for her second. Basically, you can discard a Trickstar card from your hand, and when you do, both players have to draw a card, and with multiple Lycoris on the field, that basically burns your opponent. Now, if the life point difference is 2,000 or more, you get to draw 2 cards instead of just 1, and that's actually where her first effect really comes in handy. Just being able to force your opponent to draw multiple cards with multiple Lycoris just hits for a lot more damage. Thought I had more than 1 copy. I only just have the other copies in the mail right now, so it is what it is, but hey, once I get it, it goes into the deck. Next up, 2 copies of Trickstar Devouredus. On someone will hit your opponent with 200 points of damage right off the bat. And then, while she's in the field, anytime your opponent is going to be summoning a monster, whether it be normal or special summoning, her effect will be hitting your opponent for 200 points of effect damage for every summon they do. Really nasty, and it's just an additional layer that can just help burn through your opponent's life points even more. And thanks to Trickstar Festival, we actually have an ability to get multiple level 1 Trickstar monsters on the field to summon it. Final Trickstar monster in the extra deck is one copy of Trickstar Delphinium. Delphinium is actually pretty cool because whenever you battle a monster with Delphinium, if this card's pointing to a Trickstar monster, you're able to actually target banish Trickstar cards, and then for the number of Trickstar monsters it points to, you're able to add those cards into your hand, and then this card gains 1,000 attack points for every card returned to your hand via its effect, which is actually pretty cool because you could actually then return Trickstar Festivals and Reincarnations back to your hand so you can utilize them again, which is very awesome. So that copy you banish off of Trap Trick is easily come back, and it's not a dead card, so that's why we run her in the extra. Alright, other Link monsters, well, there are a lot of continuous spells, and we do have to be careful with our field spells, so that's why I'm running 3 copies of Barricade Board Blocker on summon. It either gets you your field spell or one of your continuous spells that were destroyed back into your hand, which is always good, and it just allows you to basically utilize those spells over and over again. So that's the reason why we run 3. We want to be able to keep utilizing our resources from the grave. And for some other generic links, I'm running IP Masquerena. IP is just a great generic link too. Helps you build into other links, especially during your opponent's turn. I am running the Nightmare Map package. We have Unicorn, Cerberus, and Phoenix. Unicorn spins anything back to your opponent's deck. Cerberus goes after special summon monsters. Phoenix goes after back row. Pretty straightforward. And great toolbox cards for any Link-centric extra deck. And finally, I'm running one copy of Brawl Sword Dragon. To be very honest, I haven't been running this card a lot lately. I think Axis Coldtalker has been kind of taking over its slot, and in my opinion, I'm kind of just sick of sticking Axis Coldtalker and everything. So I'm just going back with to this card, and I've been enjoying playing with Brawl Sword Dragon, just being able to cut your opponent's monster's attack in half and be able to attack twice and hitting your opponent with this monster is just insane. So that's why I like Brawl Sword Dragon in this deck. Alright guys, that is it for my updated Trickstar deck for the August 2021. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you already haven't. And guys, just to make sure you remember that every new subscriber is actually going to get us closer to the goal of breaking 2,000 subs by early December. And if we do that, the year in review giveaway happens. If you guys want to find out more about the year in review giveaway, please check out the community tab on my main page. There's a post that really tells you all about it. And hopefully, guys, we do break that barrier so we can have that giveaway. That's something that I really would love to see happen this year, and it's really dependent on you. Furthermore, don't forget to enable notifications so you don't miss any uploads. Check out the description box below. Find the invite link to my Discord server. Join the conversation. We'll love to have you. Check out my affiliates, tcgplayer.com, as well as sidedeckversus.com. Great resources for any Yu-Gi-Oh player. Follow me on social media, and guys, until next time, peace!